Hello, I'm Noah Reyes, 34 years old, standing in the driveway of my childhood home in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, watching my breath form clouds in the bitter December air. Snow crunches under my boots as I reach for Jasper's leash, my golden retriever mix stretching after the long drive from Seattle. The house looms before me like a monument to everything I've spent 8 years running from. Georgian colonial, 3 stories, with those perfectly manicured hedges that my father always insisted on. Even in winter, the Reyes estate looks like it belongs in a magazine spread about success. My hands shake as I grab my duffel bag from the trunk, not from the cold, from the weight of returning to a place where I've always felt like a ghost in my own story. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. I grew up in this house, but I never really belonged here. While my sister Sophia was mastering real estate law and my father Elias was building his empire one property at a time, I was the kid who stayed up late, sketching characters and dreaming of stories that existed only in my head. Milwaukee winters were long, and I'd spend them holed up in the basement, creating worlds where quiet kids like me could be heroes. The front door opens before I can knock. My mother, Maria, appears in the doorway, her face lighting up with the kind of smile that makes you forget why you've been avoiding home calls for months. "Me, Joe," she whispers, pulling me into a hug that smells like cinnamon and vanilla. "You're so thin." "I'm fine, Mom." I hug her back, feeling the familiar ache of guilt settle in my chest. She's aged since I last saw her. Silver threads through her dark hair, and worry lines crease the corners of her eyes. This is Jasper. My dog bounds forward, tail wagging, and Maria laughs, the first genuine sound I've heard since pulling into the driveway. "He's beautiful, Noah, just like you said on the phone." Behind her, I catch a glimpse of my father standing in the hallway, arms crossed, wearing that expression I know so well. The one that says he's measuring me against some impossible standard I'll never reach. Elias Reyes, 58 years old, built like a linebacker even in his tailored sweater, looking at me like I'm a problem that needs solving. "Noah." His voice is clipped, formal, the kind of greeting you'd give a business associate you're not particularly fond of. "Dad," I nod, keeping my voice steady. 8 years of distance, and we still can't manage more than that. "You brought the dog," he says, like it's an accusation. "I brought my dog," I correct, my hand finding Jasper's head. The familiar weight of his presence keeps me grounded. "Well, come inside before you freeze to death." Sophia's voice cuts through the tension. My older sister appears behind our parents, sharp as ever in her black cashmere sweater and perfectly straightened hair. She's 36 now, successful, everything our parents wanted their eldest to be. "You look like you've been living in a coffee shop for the past decade." "Good to see you too, Soph." She smirks, but there's something else in her eyes. Curiosity, maybe, or pity. I can't tell which is worse. "Nieto!" A voice booms from the kitchen, and suddenly Grandma Lita appears, all 4 feet 11 inches of her, wearing a Christmas sweater covered in dancing reindeer. She pushes past everyone and wraps me in a hug that nearly knocks me over. "You brought the mutt, but not a girlfriend?" I laugh despite myself. "Nice to see you too, Abuela." "At least someone around here has priorities," she says, shooting a pointed look at my father. The house smells like pine and Maria's famous pozole. Christmas music plays softly from the living room, and everything looks exactly like it did when I was a kid. Same family photos on the mantle, same leather furniture, same sense that I'm standing in a museum of a life I was never quite good enough to live. As we move inside, Jasper at my heels, I can feel the weight of their expectations settling on my shoulders like snow. They see the barista, the failed artist, the son who walked away from everything they built. What they don't see is the secret I've been carrying for 2 years, the one that's going to change everything. But first, I have to survive this weekend. And judging by the way my father's already looking at me like I'm a disappointment wrapped in a winter coat, that's going to be harder than I thought. That evening, We gather in the living room like we're performing a play we've rehearsed 1,000 times. My father sits in his leather recliner, the one that's been his throne for as long as I can remember. Sophia perches on the edge of the couch, scrolling through her phone with one hand while holding a glass of wine with the other. Mom bustles around, adjusting throw pillows that don't need adjusting, and Grandma Lita claims her spot in the corner armchair, watching everything with those sharp eyes that miss nothing. I sink into the love seat with Jasper at my feet, nursing a mug of hot cider that tastes like childhood and regret. So the Henderson property finally closed, my father announces, his voice carrying that satisfaction he gets when a deal goes exactly as planned. $2.3 million, not bad for a month's work. The market's been insane, Sophia jumps in, suddenly animated. We've got 3 more commercial properties under contract. Dad's been working 18-hour days. Someone has to keep the lights on, he says, and I don't miss the way his eyes flick toward me. I try to contribute. Sounds like business is... You remember the old Morrison place on Oakwood? Sophia continues, talking right over me like I'm background noise. We're converting it into luxury condos, 40 units, each one going for at least $400,000. My father nods approvingly. That's what real work looks like. Building something that lasts. The words hang in the air like smoke. I take another sip of cider, feeling the familiar burn of being invisible in my own family. Speaking of building things, Grandma Lita says, her voice cutting through the business talk like a knife. I found some of Noah's old drawings in the attic. Remember those comic books you used to make, Mijo? The ones about the space captain? I feel my chest tighten. Yeah, I remember. Such imagination, she continues, ignoring the way my father's jaw clenches. You could tell whole stories with just pictures. That was a phase, my father says dismissively. Everyone goes through phases. Some phases last longer than others, I say quietly. What's that supposed to mean? Sophia asks, finally looking up from her phone. Nothing. Just, some things stick with you. My father leans forward, and I can see the lecture coming. You know what sticks, Noah? Results. Legacy. Something you can point to and say, I built that. Not, whatever it is you're doing in Seattle. The room goes quiet except for the soft jazz playing from the kitchen. Mom stops arranging pillows. Sophia's fingers pause over her phone screen. Even Jasper seems to sense the tension, his ears perking up. I think I'm going to take Jasper for a walk, I say, standing up before anyone can respond. But dinner's in an hour, Mom protests. We'll be back. I clip Jasper's leash to his collar and head for the door, feeling their eyes on my back. Outside, the snow is falling harder now, and the cold air burns my lungs. But it's better than suffocating in that room full of ghosts, the ghost of the son they wanted me to be, the ghost of the life I was supposed to live. Jasper bounds ahead, his tail wagging as he explores the familiar yard. At least one of us is happy to be here. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. The real test is still coming. That evening, we gather in the living room like we're performing a play we've rehearsed 1,000 times. My father sits in his leather recliner, the one that's been his throne for as long as I can remember. Sophia perches on the edge of the couch, scrolling through her phone with one hand while holding a glass of wine with the other. Mom bustles around, adjusting throw pillows that don't need adjusting, and Grandma Lita claims her spot in the corner armchair, watching everything with those sharp eyes that miss nothing. I sink into the love seat with Jasper at my feet, nursing a mug of hot cider that tastes like childhood and regret. So the Henderson property finally closed, my father announces, his voice carrying that satisfaction he gets when a deal goes exactly as planned. $2.3 million, not bad for a month's work. The market's been insane. Sophia jumps in, suddenly animated. We've got 3 more commercial properties under contract. Dad's been working 18-hour days. Someone has to keep the lights on, he says, and I don't miss the way his eyes flick toward me. I try to contribute. Sounds like business is... You remember the old Morrison place on Oakwood? Sophia continues, talking right over me like I'm background noise. We're converting it into luxury condos. 40 units, each one going for at least $400,000. My father nods approvingly. That's what real work looks like. Building something that lasts. The words hang in the air like smoke. I take another sip of cider, feeling the familiar burn of being invisible in my own family. Speaking of building things, Grandma Lita says, her voice cutting through the business talk like a knife, I found some of Noah's old drawings in the attic. Remember those comic books you used to make, Mijo? The ones about the space captain? I feel my chest tighten. Yeah, I remember. Such imagination, she continues, ignoring the way my father's jaw clenches. You could tell whole stories with just pictures. That was a phase, my father says dismissively. Everyone goes through phases. Some phases last longer than others, I say quietly. What's that supposed to mean? Sophia asks, finally looking up from her phone. Nothing, just some things stick with you. My father leans forward, and I can see the lecture coming. You know what sticks, Noah? Results, legacy. Something you can point to and say, I built that. Not, whatever it is you're doing in Seattle. The room goes quiet except for the soft jazz playing from the kitchen. Mom stops arranging pillows. Sophia's fingers pause over her phone screen. Even Jasper seems to sense the tension, his ears perking up. I think I'm going to take Jasper for a walk, I say, standing up before anyone can respond. But dinner's in an hour, Mom protests. We'll be back. I clip Jasper's leash to his collar and head for the door, feeling their eyes on my back. Outside, the snow is falling harder now, and the cold air burns my lungs. But it's better than suffocating in that room full of ghosts. The ghost of the son they wanted me to be. The ghost of the life I was supposed to live. Jasper bounds ahead, his tail wagging as he explores the familiar yard. At least one of us is happy to be here. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. The real test is still coming. The next morning, I wake to the sound of pans clattering in the kitchen. Through the guesthouse window, I can see Jasper rolling in the fresh snow, his golden fur-dusted white like powdered sugar. For a moment, watching him play, I almost forget where I am. Almost. I find my mother in the kitchen, already 3 hours into what looks like a full-scale Christmas Eve preparation. Tamales are steaming in a massive pot, and the counter is covered with ingredients for her famous pozole. She looks up when I enter, flour streaking her dark hair. Perfect timing, she says, handing me an apron. I need help with the masa. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. This is our tradition, the only time in this house where I feel like I belong. We work in comfortable silence, our hands moving in practiced rhythm. She rolls, I fold. She seasons, I taste. It's a dance we've been doing since I was tall enough to reach the counter. I'm glad you came home, Mijo, she says after a while, her voice soft. I know it's difficult. Quote, Mom, about last night. Your father means well. She doesn't look at me when she says it. He just wants to see you settled, stable. Stable. The word hits me like a slap. Not successful. Not happy. Just stable. Like I'm a recovering addict who might relapse at any moment. I am stable, I say, maybe too quickly. She gives me that look, the one that says she loves me but also pities me. I know you are, baby. I just mean, maybe it's time to think about something more permanent. Something with benefits, you know? I almost tell her then. About the game, the millions. The house deeds sitting in my duffel bag upstairs. But the words stick in my throat like dry masa. Maybe, I say instead. The kitchen door swings open, and Grandma Lita shuffles in, already dressed and ready for the day, despite it being barely 8 in the morning. Good, you're both here, she says, pouring herself coffee. I wanted to tell you, Noah, I've been playing that space game on my tablet, the one where you build rockets. My heart stops. Which one? Stellar Odyssey, I think it's called. Wonderful game. Reminds me of those stories you used to tell. She winks at me over her coffee mug. Sometimes the loudest people are the most insecure, Mijo. Remember that. Before I can respond, the doorbell rings. Mom wipes her hands on her apron and hurries to answer it, leaving me standing there with Lita, who's watching me with those knowing eyes. Package for Noah Reyes. I hear the delivery driver say. My stomach drops. It's the framed deed, the one I had overnighted to myself as backup in case I lost my nerve about the envelope version upstairs. What's this? Mom asks, carrying the package into the kitchen. Just something I ordered, I say, taking it from her hands, for later. She nods, but I can see the questions in her eyes. Lita just smiles and takes another sip of her coffee. Well, she says, Christmas is certainly going to be interesting this year. If only she knew. Come on, coffee boy, Sophia says, jingling her keys. You're helping me pick up dessert. I follow her to the garage, where her sleek BMW sits next to Dad's Mercedes. Even their cars scream success. She starts the engine, and we back out into the snowy Milwaukee streets in silence, the only sound being the rhythmic swish of windshield wipers. So, she says after a few blocks, still living the barista dream? Among other things. Right, the art. She says it like she's humoring a child. Mom mentioned you're still drawing or whatever. Something like that. She glances at me sideways. You know, you could come work for us, I'm serious. Dad would never admit it, but we could use someone with your perspective. I almost laugh. My perspective? Yeah, you see things differently. Always have. She pauses at a red light, drumming her fingers on the steering wheel. Remember when we were kids? You'd make up these elaborate stories about everyone we met. The mailman was a secret agent. The grocery store clerk was a time traveler. I was 8. You were brilliant. The light turns green, and she accelerates. You still are, I think. Just, I don't know, wasted potential maybe? There it is, the family motto, wasted potential. What if it's not wasted? I ask quietly, what do you mean? What if I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be? She pulls into the bakery parking lot and turns off the engine. For a moment, we just sit there, our breath fogging the windows. Are you? She asks. Happy, I mean. The question catches me off guard. When was the last time someone in my family asked if I was happy instead of if I was successful? Yeah, I say, and I realize I mean it. I am. Then why do you always look so sad? I stare out at the snow-covered streets, because being happy doesn't mean everyone else thinks you should be. She's quiet for a long moment. Dad's proud of you, you know. He just doesn't know how to show it. No, he's not. He is. He just wishes he understood what you're doing with your life. What if I told you I understood exactly what I was doing? She turns to look at me fully. What do you mean? I mean, what if everything you think you know about my life is wrong? Her eyebrows furrow. Noah, what are you talking about? I already built something, Soph. Something big. Like what? I want to tell her. The words are right there, begging to come out. But instead, I just smile and reach for the door handle. Come on, let's get those desserts before they close. She follows me out of the car, but I can feel her watching me with new eyes. For the first time in years, Sophia Reyes is looking at her little brother like he might actually know something she doesn't. Inside the bakery, while she orders tres leches cake and I pretend to study the display case, I can sense her mind working. The questions are coming. And maybe, just maybe, she's finally ready to hear the answers. Christmas Eve dinner is served on Mom's finest china, the table set with crystal glasses that catch the light from the chandelier. Candles flicker between poinsettias, and snow pelts the dining room windows like nature's percussion section. It should be beautiful. Instead, it feels like sitting in a museum, where I'm the only exhibit that doesn't belong. We pass dishes in practiced silence, pozole, tamales, Sophia's tres leches cake waiting on the sideboard. Jasper lies by my feet under the table, his warm presence the only thing keeping me grounded. This is delicious, Mom, Sophia says, breaking the quiet. Thank you, Mija. Noah helped with the masa this morning. My father glances up from cutting his tamale. Still playing in the kitchen, I see. Cooking isn't playing, Dad. Right. He takes a sip of wine. Speaking of playing, are you still working at that coffee shop? The question lands like a stone in still water, sending ripples of tension across the table. Mom shifts in her seat. Sophia's fork pauses halfway to her mouth. Even Grandma Lita looks up from her pozole. "It's a good job," I say carefully. "A good job." He repeats the words like they taste bitter. 34 years old, and you think serving coffee is a good job. "Elias," Mom warns softly. "What?" I'm just trying to understand. We gave him every opportunity, the best schools, connections in the business, and he chose to make lattes for college kids. My chest tightens. I chose to do something I enjoy. Enjoy? He laughs, but there's no humor in it. You know what I enjoyed at your age? Building something, creating jobs for people, making a difference. Who says I'm not making a difference? Are you? He leans forward, his voice sharp. Because from where I sit, it looks like you're hiding, running away from responsibility, from family, from everything that matters. Sophia sets down her fork. Dad, maybe we should. No, let him answer. His eyes bore into mine. 8 years, Noah. 8 years of watching you waste your potential while your sister builds this company into something real, something that will last. The words hit like physical blows. I feel myself shrinking, becoming that scared kid who could never measure up to his father's impossible standards. I didn't waste anything, I say quietly. Didn't you? He gestures around the room. Look at this house. Look at what we built. And look at you, still playing coffee shop, still living in that tiny apartment, still pretending that your little hobbies matter. They're not hobbies. Then what are they? His voice rises. Because I raised you to lead, Noah. To build empires, not to hide behind some counter-making drinks for people who actually have ambition. The silence that follows is deafening. Mom's eyes are glassy with unshed tears. Sophia stares at her plate. Grandma Lita's knuckles are white around her wine glass. My father sits back, satisfied with his verbal demolition. I just want to understand where I went wrong with you. That's when I reach into my jacket pocket and pull out the sealed envelope. My hands are steady as I place it on the table between the candles and the crystal glasses. Maybe this will help, I say. My father stares at the envelope like it might explode. The candlelight flickers across his face, casting shadows that make him look older, uncertain for the first time in my memory. What is this? He asks. Open it. His hands shake slightly as he breaks the seal. I watch his eyes scan the first document, the deed to this house, stamped and official, with his name listed as the sole owner. Paid in full. No mortgage. No debt. I don't understand, he whispers. Keep reading. He unfolds the second page, a letter explaining everything. The pseudonym I've been working under for 3 years. The indie game that started as a weekend project in my tiny Seattle apartment. The viral success that caught everyone, including me, by surprise. The acquisition deal that closed 6 weeks ago for $4.2 million. Mom's hand flies to her mouth. Sophia drops her fork, and it clatters against the china. Grandma Lita just smiles and raises her wine glass like she's been waiting for this moment her entire life. Stellar Odyssey, my father reads aloud, his voice barely audible, created by Noah Reyes. I used a pseudonym for privacy, I explain, my voice steady despite my racing heart. But yes, I built that, from nothing, just like you taught me. $4.2 million, Sophia breathes. The house payment was only a fraction of that, I say. I figured you and Mom deserved to own this place free and clear. You've worked hard enough. My father looks up from the papers, and for the first time in my adult life I see him speechless. Actually speechless. You did this? I did this. But why didn't you tell us? The question hangs in the air like incense. I take a breath, choosing my words carefully. Because I didn't do it to prove anything to you. I did it because I love you, all of you. Even when you can't love who I am. Mom breaks into quiet sobs, covering her face with her hands. Sophia reaches across the table and grabs my arm, her eyes wide with something between amazement and regret. "Noah," she whispers, "I'm so sorry." "You don't need to apologize." "Yes, I do. We all do." My father sets the papers down with trembling hands. When he looks at me now, I see something I've never seen before. Not just respect, but awe. "You paid off our house," he says, like he's trying to make the words real. "I wanted you to have peace. But I just called you. A disappointment, I know." Grandma Lita clinks her wineglass with her fork, demanding attention. "To my grandson," she announces, her voice clear and proud, "who built an empire so quietly we almost missed it." She raises her glass toward me, and slowly, one by one, the rest of my family follows suit. For the first time in 8 years, we're all looking at each other, really looking, and seeing something new. Christmas morning arrives with a stillness that feels different from yesterday's tension. I wake to find Jasper already gone from his makeshift bed beside mine in the guest house. Through the frost-covered window, I can see him in the backyard, chasing snowflakes like they're the most fascinating things in the world. Maybe they are. Inside the main house, everything feels shifted. The same furniture, the same family photos on the mantel, but the air itself seems lighter. I find Jasper lying by the fireplace in the living room, his tail thumping against the hardwood when he sees me. "He's been waiting for you," Mom's voice comes from behind me. I turn to see her in her Christmas robe, holding 2 steaming mugs of coffee. Her eyes are still puffy from last night's tears, but she's smiling, really smiling, for the first time since I arrived. She hands me a mug and sits beside me on the couch. For several minutes, we just watch Jasper's chest rise and fall in peaceful sleep. "I'm sorry," she whispers finally. "Mom, you don't need to." "Yes, I do." She turns to face me fully. "We made you feel like you weren't enough. Like who you were wasn't enough. And you were always enough, Joe. You were always more than enough." Her words crack something open inside my chest. I feel tears building, but for once, they don't feel like defeat. "I know," I say, and I realize I actually do know. Maybe for the first time. Sophia appears in the doorway, her hair still messy from sleep, carrying her own coffee mug. She doesn't say anything at first, just comes and sits on the other side of me. "I looked up your game last night," she says quietly. 4.8 stars. Over 2 million downloads. The reviews are incredible. "It's just a game." "No, it's not." She shakes her head. "It's beautiful. The story, the characters. It's like those comics you used to make, but bigger, better." I don't know what to say to that, so I just nod. "Can I ask you something?" Sophia continues. "Sure. Why didn't you rub it in our faces last night? After everything Dad said, you could have made us feel terrible. But you didn't." I think about that for a moment, watching Jasper's peaceful sleep. "Because making you feel terrible wouldn't have made me feel better." "But weren't you angry?" "Yeah, I was furious." I take a sip of coffee, but I was also tired. Tired of carrying around all that hurt. Tired of needing you to see me differently before I could see myself clearly. Through the window, I notice Dad's study light is on. He's been up for a while, probably sitting with those papers, trying to reconcile the son he thought he knew with the man who quietly paid off his house. Grandma Lita shuffles into the living room, already dressed and ready for the day. "Morning, genius," she says, ruffling my hair like I'm still 8 years old. "Your father's been pacing in that study since dawn. Some fathers take longer to thaw, but they get there eventually." "Think he'll talk to me?" She grins. "Me, Joe, after last night, he's probably trying to figure out how to ask you for business advice." The knock on the study door comes softer than I expected. Dad's voice calls for me to enter, and I find him sitting behind his mahogany desk, the deed and letter spread out before him like evidence in a case he's trying to solve. "Close the door, son." Son. Not Noah, not a disappointed sigh followed by my name, just son. I take the leather chair across from his desk, The same one where I used to get lectures about grades, about choices, about living up to the Blake name. But today, something feels different. He looks older in the morning light, more fragile somehow. I've been sitting here since 5 this morning, he says, touching the corner of the deed, reading this over and over, trying to understand. What don't you understand? Quote, how I got it so wrong. His voice cracked slightly. How I missed it completely. I stay quiet, letting him work through whatever he needs to say. When you left 8 years ago, I thought you were running away. I thought you were weak. He looks up at me, and I see tears gathering in his eyes. I thought I'd failed as a father because my son couldn't handle the real world. Dad, let me finish. He holds up a hand. I spent 8 years telling anyone who'd listen that you were going through a phase, that you'd come back when you got hungry enough, desperate enough. I was waiting for you to fail so I could rescue you. The admission hangs between us like a bridge neither of us knows how to cross. But you didn't fail, he continues. You succeeded in ways I never imagined. You built something beautiful, something that brings joy to millions of people. And instead of celebrating that, I called you a disappointment. You were scared, I say quietly. I get that now. Scared of what? Of losing me to a world you didn't understand, the same way I was scared of disappointing you in a world I didn't fit into. He nods slowly, like he's seeing this truth for the first time. You paid off our house, Noah. Our house. While I was busy telling everyone you were a failure, you were taking care of us. I wanted you to have security, peace of mind. You did more for this family than I ever expected. Hell, more than I deserved after the way I treated you. He stands up, walks around the desk, and for the first time in my adult life, places both hands on my shoulders. I was wrong about you. Completely, utterly wrong. We were both wrong about some things. No, his grip tightens. I was the parent. I should have supported your dreams instead of trying to crush them into mine. We don't hug. We're not there yet. Maybe never will be. But his hands on my shoulders feel like forgiveness, like the beginning of something we've never had before. I'm proud of you, he says, and I hear 8 years of withheld approval in those 4 words. I know you are, Dad. Finally. The snow has stopped falling by the time I load my duffel bag into the trunk. The Milwaukee streets are pristine white, like someone hit the reset button on the entire city. Jasper sits in the passenger seat, his nose already pressed against the window, ready for the long drive back to Seattle. But this time, leaving feels different. The family gathers on the front porch, bundled in coats and scarves, their breath creating small clouds in the crisp air. It looks like a Norman Rockwell painting, except we're all here by choice this time, not obligation. Wait, Mom says, hurrying back inside. She returns with a large bag that smells like heaven. Tamales for the road, and some of that pozole you love. I take the bag, and she pulls me into a hug that lasts longer than any we've shared since I was a teenager. Come back soon, she whispers in my ear. Not for Christmas or birthdays or guilt. Come back, because you want to. I will, Mom. I promise. Sophia steps forward next, her hands shoved deep in her coat pockets. So I was thinking, she says, trying to sound casual. Maybe I could visit Seattle sometime. See your apartment, meet your friends. You know, get to know the real Noah instead of the one I made up in my head. I'd like that. Good. Because I'm also thinking about expanding the business to the West Coast. Could use someone with creative vision to help scout locations, she grins. Think you might be interested in a consulting gig? Maybe, if the pay's good enough. Oh, I think we can afford you now. Grandma Lita shuffles forward, reaching into her purse. Before you go, she says, pulling out a worn leather wallet. This was your grandfather's. He always said it would go to the first Reyes man, who understood that success isn't about how loud you shout. It's about how much good you do. I take the wallet, feeling its weight. Inside, there's a black and white photo of my grandfather as a young man, standing in front of a small grocery store with a sign that reads, Reyes Market. He started with nothing, too, she says. Built something that fed the neighborhood for 40 years. Different scale, same heart. Finally, Dad steps forward. He's holding something wrapped in tissue paper. "This was my father's," he says, handing it to me, "and his father's before that." I unwrap it carefully. It's a gold pocket watch, engraved with simple words, "Para mi hijo." "For my son," he translates unnecessarily. "I should have given it to you years ago. When you graduated. When you moved away. When you came home." He pauses. "I should have given it to you the moment I realized you were already the man I hoped you'd become." I slip the watch into my pocket, feeling it settle against my chest like a promise. "Thank you, Dad." We shake hands this time, firm and sure. Not a hug, but progress. As I drive away, watching them wave in my rearview mirror, I realize something has shifted permanently. I'm not running away anymore. I'm going home, to the life I built, the person I became, the peace I finally found. And for the first time in 8 years, I know I'll be back. 3 days later, I'm back in my Seattle apartment, watching the rain streak down my windows while Jasper naps on his favorite spot by the radiator. The place feels smaller somehow, but not in a bad way. Cozier. More like home than it ever has before. My laptop sits open on the kitchen table, cursor blinking in the empty blog post field. I've been staring at it for an hour, trying to find the right words to tell the world something I've kept hidden for 3 years. Outside, the city hums with its usual energy. Coffee shops full of dreamers, tech offices buzzing with late-night coding sessions, artists in cramped studios creating tomorrow's masterpieces. This is my world, the one I chose, the one that chose me back. I start typing. My name is Noah Reyes, and I created Stellar Odyssey. The words feel strange, liberating, like stepping out of a shadow I didn't realize was following me. I write about the late nights, the failed prototypes, the moment when a simple space exploration game became something that connected millions of players around the world. I write about the pseudonym, the secret success, the weight of living 2 lives. But mostly I write about coming home. Success isn't about proving yourself to people who doubt you. It's about becoming who you're meant to be, especially when, that person doesn't fit anyone else's expectations. I hit publish before I can second-guess myself. Within minutes, my phone starts buzzing. Notifications flood in. Comments, shares, interview requests from gaming magazines. Congratulations from fellow developers who'd suspected but never asked. The coffee shop where I still work part-time sends a text asking if the rumors are true. But I don't read the responses. Not yet. Instead, I walk to my desk and pick up the framed photo from Christmas dinner, the one Mom insisted on taking after the deed revelation. We're all there, crowded around the dining room table, looking slightly stunned but genuinely happy. Jasper's nose is visible in the corner, and Dad's hand rests on my shoulder. I place it next to my grandfather's watch and the deed copy that I kept for myself, a shrine to the long journey from hiding to being seen. My phone rings. It's Sophia. "I just saw your post," she says. "It's beautiful, Noah, and brave." "Thanks. Also, my phone hasn't stopped ringing. I think you're about to be very busy." I laugh, looking out at the Seattle skyline. Good thing I like being busy. Just remember us little people when you're famous. I'll try. After we hang up, I sit back in my chair and watch Jasper sleep. Outside, the rain has stopped, and late afternoon sunlight filters through the clouds, turning everything golden. For the first time in my life, I don't feel like I'm hiding from anything. I'm exactly where I belong, doing exactly what I was meant to do. And everyone finally knows it, including me. Up next, we have 2 more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.